This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Forbes School of Business and Technology at Ashford University, SHRM chapter. This is an acknowledgement for anyone participating that it is voluntary and that you acknowledge and understand that you are at Ashford University will be recording this presentation and your participation is voluntary. I consent to your use of my voice and participation in whole or in part in these recordings or other derivative materials based upon them. And you must understand that these may be used for educational, promotional, or commercial purposes. So by participating in this meeting, you agree to the above statements. This webinar is on job seeking optimization, which you can apply to your resume and LinkedIn. It's presented by Grace Williamson, Director of Career Services, hosted by the SHRM chapter leadership, including President Kayla O'Leary, Vice President Narcissa Turner, Chapter Secretary Shannon Eghart, and we are also welcomed by faculty advisors Dr. Katie Thury, which is Program Chair, Leah Westerman, JD Core Faculty, and Dr. Catherine Frost, Associate Faculty. Now, here's a little bit about Grace. Grace Williamson serves as the Director of Career Services and Alumni Relations at Ashford University. Grace joined AU from Quail Test, where she was the U.S. Head of People and Talent. She also has an extensive background in education sector, having served as the Associate Director of Recruitment and Employer Relations at Princeton University, where she developed and executed an on-campus recruitment strategy and employer relations program, co-authorized the Princeton Career Services Annual Report that summarized post-graduation placement, and advised Fortune 500 C-suite level leaders on their talent acquisition strategies and culture development. Additionally, she has held leadership positions at American Public University Services and the United States Military Academy, overseeing the support needs of thousands of students and alumni and their respective groups. Grace's educational background includes MS in Organizational Leadership and Administration from Concordia University MBA in Speech Communication with a minor in English and Baylor University. Grace, we welcome you and good luck.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this presentation today. My name is Grace Williamson, and I'm the Director of Career Services and Alumni Relations at Ashford University. I joined Ashford in September of 2018, and I'm looking very forward to meeting with you all today to share this presentation on job seeker optimization. Now, my apologies, I seem to have double-clicked and advanced my presentation a little faster than I intended. But before we begin, I'd really like to share our Career Services mission with you. So, as you're all aware, Career Services is here to empower students and alumni with the employment readiness skills needed to achieve their individualized career goals through innovative programs and services. As we speak a little bit more today along these lines, I definitely want to share with you some of the, and my apology, I seem to have gone a little bit too far. I want to share with you information about the services that we currently offer. If you find that you need assistance with self-assessment, career exploration and planning, resume and cover letter development, interview preparation, networking, or job search assistance, please contact us in Career Services. You can make an appointment by visiting My Career or by contacting us at careerservices@ashford.edu. I want to go over the learning objectives. So as we're learning more about job seeker optimization, I want to explain to you how applicant tracking systems work. I think gaining an understanding of how you can utilize powerful search tools and include hyper-specific keywords and algorithms within your resume and job seeker artifacts. This will optimize your capability of being found by a recruiter. I'm also going to teach you about how to identify keywords using services like TagCrowd and WordCloud. And then you'll also learn how to apply optimization tactics to your resume and LinkedIn profile. So let's get started. I always think it's interesting to talk a little bit about the history of a resume. I don't know how many of you might be aware of who actually wrote the first resume. I've offered some swag to anybody who might have the answer to this question, but to save you the suspense, I'll go ahead and tell you. So the first resume was actually written by Leonardo da Vinci, and I've included a link in the bottom of this presentation so you can take a look at it. It was written in 1482, so think of how far resumes have come since then. It was a handwritten letter written on parchment paper. Leonardo wrote this letter to the Regent of Milan to explain his many skills, listing all of the different things that he could do for Milan. For example, he tailored his resume to the needs of his prospective employer in much the same way that we would be tailoring our resume for job postings today. As we advance through this timeline, you'll see that from the 1930s to 50s, resumes gained popularity and eventually became the prerequisite for getting an interview. And when we came to 1980, this was an impactful year because this was the year that Microsoft Word gifted us with the resume template, which many of us have utilized in our job searches to date. And then bringing us to present day, there were many established job boards between the 1990s to present time. But one of the most impactful job boards, but also professional networking sites, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn's founding of an introduction of professional profiles in 2006, which actually acts as a de facto resume of today's time, has really and truly changed the way in which recruiters look or source candidates and validate skill sets, which makes this presentation all the more impactful as you're both looking to optimize your resume but also improve your LinkedIn profile. The next thing that we're going to talk about is resume optimization. So all of us utilize resumes as we're seeking jobs, and I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to talk about applicant tracking systems. Given that you're all members of the SHRM chapter, I'm sure that many of you already have a fairly good idea of how applicant tracking systems work. Applicant tracking systems are looking for keywords and phrases. I'm going to refer to these as ATS systems as we move forward. But ATS systems work like spam filters, filtering content that may or may not be relevant to the job for which you're applying. Understanding that irrelevant information will be stripped from your resume and will affect your overall ATS score further highlights the importance of tailoring your resume to the job for which you're applying and optimizing with keywords. Here, I've outlined the resume parsing process. For those of you that may not have as much familiarity with the resume parsing process, I've outlined it here for you to follow along. In summary, once you submit your resume, the information you provided is extracted and parsed into categories such as work experience, skills, and education. Many applicant systems score resumes according to keywords, phrases, and terms listed in the posting. So you can go over this 6-step process to gain a little bit more of an insights into how each step in the process works. But I think it's important to note again that keywords are vital to ensuring that your resume is ultimately viewed by human eyes. Resume keyword optimization is the next thing that I really want to spend some time on. It's important to hone in closely on similar position titles in order to maximize the power of keyword optimization. I'm going to take you through a couple of different resources that will help you identify keywords. Once keywords have been identified, replacing synonyms with primary and secondary keywords in your resume will increase your overall ATS scoring and improve the number of recruiter searches you appear in on LinkedIn and on other job boards. It's also important to remember to spell out any acronyms you use on your resume. For example, replace PHR with professional and human resources. And then in case they're also searching for PHR, you'll want to create a parenthetical reference to say PHR. So bottom line, optimizing your resume will absolutely take time, but it's time well spent. Utilize the job description to gain an understanding of the qualifications that an employer is seeking, and use that same language in your resume, further qualifying and describing how and to what degree you have achieved each requirement. In a generic resume, the recruiter has to determine if you were a fit. With an optimized resume and cover letter, you're sharing with the employer why you were a perfect fit for the job. To outline your experience and achievement, I recommend using the POWER and STAR methods, and we'll go over that in the next slide. So one of the most important reasons why updating your resume is something that you need to pay special attention to is the applicant tracking systems. Applicant tracking systems are used by 98% of Fortune 500 companies. When you consider that, it makes sense to spend time doing this. ATSs are utilized by recruiters to identify specific skills, experience, and keywords in candidate resumes to find well-qualified candidates for their job posting. And my apologies, I advanced one slide too far. So here's one example of a PAR technique. So in this slightly modified method, this following elements are included: problem, action, and result. You'll note that the example I provided is from a book written by Laszlo Block, the former senior vice president at Google. Part statements, or problem, action, result statements, are also referred to as accomplishment statements. They describe a problem that you faced, the action you took to overcome the problem, and the result of your action. Part statements reflect your skills and abilities and are a validation of your experience. Using these statements in your resume gives a prospective employer an idea of the kind of contribution you will most likely make in the future. Strengthening these statements will further quantify and emphasize the value of the contributions you've made in your current role as well as previous roles, really just acting as a predictor of what your future behavior and contributions could be like for the organization that you wish to work for. One thing that many people don't consider are fonts. So here are fonts that I've divided into two separate areas. The fonts that you select for your resume are very important. So you have both fonts for when you actually are handing a resume to a person, but those for applicant tracking systems are a bit different. So sans serif fonts are preferred by ATS systems. And this may be something that you are already aware of or not, but I've included a graphic so that you can see what a serif font is. So a serif font are those fonts like Times New Roman that have kind of a tail on the end of the letter. So you can refer to the picture there. But I've provided you with suggestions of what fonts you should avoid. And again, studies have shown that font size 11 received more interviews than any other size because they're easier to read. So dependent on the applicant tracking system, this is something that can cause that the fonts listed on the right-hand side that are serif fonts. These are fonts that some systems have difficulty reading. So just in order to maximize your opportunity, it would make sense for you to be mindful of this and to consider using one of these fonts. Now, I briefly touched on the fact that the fonts that you would use for an applicant tracking system may be different than the fonts that you would use for a printed resume. So since I shared that information with you, I thought it would be helpful to share which fonts are best for printed resumes. Much of this is preference-based, but I will tell you that throughout this presentation, I've used a Roboto font, which interestingly enough was developed by Google for ease of readability and mobile use. So another thing to keep in mind as you're planning out your own profile on LinkedIn or even producing documents that you might share as artifacts. Okay, so I want to talk to you also about the STAR method. So in the STAR method, this is situational. So we're looking at the situation, task, action, and result. And I keep advancing, my apologies. But in this example, what you would do is you would be able to both quantify and show the way in which you provided and you conducted an action and also the result of what that action was. So in this case, the example, the person was able to explain that they initiated, wrote, and edited the first training manual for our company's data tracking system, which cut the training period in half and was adopted across the company and is still in use today. So you'll see through this process, they were able to identify the quantifiable part of this achievement statement, which is that they cut the training period in half, and that despite their no longer being with the company, this is still currently being used today. Okay, so keyword optimization. To help you identify keywords, I recommend using a word cloud generator, such as TagCrowd or word clouds. Both systems allow you to paste text, a web page URL, or even upload a file to identify keywords, and will provide you with the differing size and count options to inform you of how often the word appears in the text you provided. The larger and bolder the word, the more often it appears. I also want to show you what the representation of this looks like. So here is the next slide, and you'll see on the left side I have listed TagCrowd, and on the right side is word cloud. So TagCrowd allows you to select multiple languages, and to improve accuracy, this is important, where word cloud does not. Word cloud does have a fun feature where you can change the shape, font, color, and cloud shape, as well as the size of the text. I do recommend using a word cloud generator to identify keywords and postings, and you can also use it to compare it to your LinkedIn profile or an interviews profile to identify commonalities, or even an organization's commonalities within an organization's mission statement. I will also tell you that within the past 2 weeks, we have actually purchased a license to a program called JobScan. And JobScan takes the hard work out of having to do this yourself. All you would need to do is you can either visit our website and upload a copy of your resume, as well as a copy of your targeted job posting, and it'll go through and automatically identify which keywords appear in the job posting that are not included in your resume, and it will even offer suggestions of keywords that should be included that you might have missed, or even synonym changes of words that you should switch out. So for example, if the job posting says that they're looking for someone with experience managing staff, and in your resume you've listed that you have experience supervising staff, it'll suggest that you change every placement of the word supervise in your resume to manage. And so this can be very helpful. So just another new way that you can partner with us in Career Services to optimize your job search. I have a few more resume optimization tips. First of all, don't submit a generic resume. A generic resume is all about you. A tailored resume is about how you can add skill and value to the employer based on your past work experience. Also, unless you are submitting a federal resume, do use bullet points instead of paragraphs. Don't use paragraphs for anything that you're submitting through an ATS other than usajobs.gov. This will make it easier for the recruiter to identify your matching qualifications, quantify and explain your accomplishment and skills. This definitely adds credibility to your effectiveness in previous roles. So in looking at optimizing your resume to the job description, I have included a few examples here. So when you look at the job description comparison, some of the things you want to think about is, does your resume clearly state that you're qualified to perform the duties and responsibilities of the position for which you're applying? And if not, as you're going down the bullet list and the duties and responsibilities, go back and ensure that you're adding bullets that match you more closely to the position and that demonstrate your effectiveness at having performed the skill that or duty or responsibility that they're seeking. Don't forget, as I mentioned previously in my example with the supervise and manage, that you're matching skills to keywords. Mirror the language, keywords, and buzzwords that you see in the job posting, and then also include, additional technical skills to highlight your experience. Also look at highlighting the skills in the job description. So again, this is similar to what I've said before. You want to mirror the language that they're utilizing, but instead you want to quantify how it is and at what level you did the work that they're looking for. So if they say that they are looking for someone who has experience managing staff, then in your bullet, you want to say manage X number of staff. So you want to provide them with a number, and then you want to define what type of work that staff did. Most importantly, to truly optimize all of the hard work you put in, don't forget to spell check and review your resume. You want to ask, does my resume prove that I'm a good fit for the job? And is it free of any grammatical errors, spelling errors? You've spent so much time and attention to detail to ensuring that your resume is optimized for the job opportunity. These are the final steps to make sure that all the hard work that you've put in is truly going to be effective. On this slide, you'll find many suggestions for ATS practices. I'd like to point out that the 3 most common mistakes that lead to parsing problems when it comes to utilizing applicant tracking systems are first, the type of file that you upload, and secondly, the dates of employment on your file. So the one thing that I want to point out is that if your dates on your resume and the template that you're using or that you've developed yourself are listed to the right and not the left, it's likely going to parse your information into the wrong category. So make sure that your dates are parsed on or are placed on the right side of your resume. Finally, it's important to remember to spell out acronyms and to use parenthetical references so that you're optimizing the opportunity for the ATS to pick up all of the keywords in your resume. And I've provided examples in this. So for example, you'd want to put certified accountant and CPA, or professional and human resources, and a parenthetical reference to PHR. So these are just some things to keep in mind. Finally, we're going to close out the session talking about LinkedIn optimization. So on this slide, it covers why it is so important to utilize LinkedIn. So first of all, if any one of these things doesn't get you enough, 94% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to either source or vet job candidates. Again, there are more than 44,000 job applications submitted through LinkedIn daily, and 87% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to find candidates for jobs. So those are the primary reasons why you should look at optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Now, studies show that those people that optimize their LinkedIn profile and take that lens to individualization and personalization to match themselves to opportunities have a 132% increase in LinkedIn profile views. So take that into consideration as you think about the next bit of work that you're going to do to ensure that your profile is complete. So why does LinkedIn optimization matter? Again, all of us have LinkedIn profiles, and on this slide, I've highlighted some tips for completing and optimizing your profile. On this slide, you'll see that I provided an example of a profile headline for a talent acquisition professional. I've also included a link to an article that provides some great examples of for HR professional headlines that may be useful to you now. Most importantly is to make yourself easy to find. One of the best ways to do this is to customize your URL and share this on your business cards and across your social media accounts. I provided an example of the LinkedIn issued profile URL and a vanity URL that could be selected for Jane Doe's profile. And so as you'll see here, originally Jane Doe had her URL was www.linkedin.com/pub/Jane-Doe1234/3456. Very long, very hard to remember. However, Had Jane Doe gone on to claim her vanity URL, she could have simply just been www.linkedin.com/in/Jane Doe, a lot easier to find. So this is free. There's no additional cost. So it's something that you should definitely consider getting for yourself. LinkedIn, I don't know if you're aware, but LinkedIn users with profile pictures receive 14 times more profile views, making it essential to upload a professional photograph. Online, you'll find many different articles where they've actually studied the profile photos of LinkedIn executives to give advice on what the best LinkedIn photos should look like. But the best photographs use most of the frame and include an authentic depiction of the person being featured without any other people or animals in the photo. So for your summary, as you may have guessed, optimizing your profile with keywords, soft skills, hard skills, and competencies are critical for increasing your profile views, whether it's by recruiters, colleagues, or other professionals to find you and to grow your network. Again, I will tell you 60% of companies hire based on experience. So a completed profile, optimizing your experience sections is really important. So in case you're interested in learning any more or in greater detail about some of the information that I provided, I've included sources so that you can do a bit of a deeper dive. And that concludes our session for today. I greatly appreciate your taking the time to join us. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly at grace.williamson@ashford.edu. Or if you're interested in taking us up on any services, whether it's a resume review, resume optimization session, or LinkedIn profile review, or even a mock interview, please reach out to us and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Grace. We appreciate your presentation. We'll go ahead and wrap up for today.
Sounds good.
All right.